Welcome to part 30 of the 2023 NFL Draft and Review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2023 Seattle Seahawks draft class. And the Seahawks got a lot of good value here as far as I can see. Pretty much every single one of these players, best I can tell, has a chance of being a important piece of this Seahawks team, because the Seahawks, for the first time in a while, took a class that really covers the holes in this team. They overachieved this year. This class goes towards to keeping it and making it more regular achievement. So we're going to start off, of course, with number 5 selection, cornerback Devon Witherspoon. And the guy's got some pretty impressive pass deflection ability, 25, but actually catching the ball, just 5. So that's something to sort of look at. Gets a little involved in the run stopping, so some of the tackling might be less a product of the guy catching the ball and him having to stop him, or just him getting involved on other plays, which is a nice thing I sometimes see to kind of limit the impact of, that's a lot of tackles. So, here we go.
And distance doesn't matter much. Freeman heaves in the direction of Marshall Lang, the tight end. It's intercepted.
That was a bad throw.
Now, granted, this is a Hail Mary situation. It's not a typical offense. But the fact remains, a DB.
Here's a play fake, and Morgan throwing it deep here on the first play of the drive, and 2 defenders back, and Witherspoon with the interception.
It's been taken away by the positioning of the defenders. Here, Tanner Morgan.
In motion. He turns and fires to his right and looking for Melton, but it's brought down by Witherspoon.
Twice earlier, one for a touchdown, but you see Witherspoon in phase. That means he's running stride for his head back to find the ball, gets his body in between Melton and the football, high points it.
Tyler Goodson looking for running room on the outside. Trying to get some room with Brown, but he can't even get back to the line of scrimmage.
One pass, and connected on the touchdown to Jahan Dotson. And now Clifford keeps this one. And he'll have a first down as that ball came out, and Witherspoon.
Angles, might be able to see. Ooh, that's going to be real close. And remember,
21 yards, and they're moving quickly. Whoa, hello.
And nobody blocked him. He's supposed to be blocked there.
Screen out to the bubble to Dotson and Lambert Smith.
He's pretty good at attacking screens.
But that would be an extension of their...
Over 3 starters in the secondary out for Illinois. And Northwestern starting at its home. 2 will lose the ball and fumble on the first play. And Illinois has a chance for a takeaway.
Looked like he was getting stopped behind the line, and a nice job of putting Hat right on the ball.
Over the middle for Hall, and it's intercepted. Devin Witherspoon, room to run, past Freeman. Again. And finally,
Their draft stock more in the last 13 weeks than him. He just anticipates everything. He watches so much film, and after this, it's just...
play blown up. Nowhere to go for Jahan. He is going to the air, taking a bit of a shot, but it's intercepted. Illinois picks it off. It's Devin Witherspoon. And Witherspoon still on his feet. The tight end, dressed but hasn't been involved. Witherspoon
Blitz this time.
one time before into the perimeter. This time Ryan Walton. Sideline. Thompson in trouble. Gets outside. Goes back across the middle of the ground. But a great. It's Reed. Aspirations alive. O'Connell finds McAfee. Big.
Ordinary dish soaps can leave.
Okay, so I will say that Witherspoon's probably the hardest hitter I've seen in this entire class. So that's something. It didn't really give too much of his coverage skills, aside from the interceptions, where he did, for the large part, put himself in good position to get the ball instead of the wide receiver. So if he can do that, then that makes him a pretty important piece of the Seahawks defense immediately, because they really do not have a guy that can really do that right now. So that is a pretty solid selection. And next up is a player I know I'm going to like because I've seen him before. Wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba. And much as I did end up kind of liking the Patriots' first selection, I was pissed at them missing out on Jackson because they had the perfect spot in the draft to take him. No one was taking receiver for some reason. We need one bad, and we just let it slip through our fingers, which is very irritating to me. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to come over here and look at the just excessive amount of weapons Geno Smith is going to have now that he has Jackson, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett.
And goal at the 5. Fields rolls out. Throws it. Incomplete.
Because he's trying to get that control.
That's not a touchdown in the NFL, but still.
The receiver's right foot was down in the end zone with possession of the ball. It is reversed to a touchdown.
Wow. Man, I tell you what, man. This guy can play. He's playing in the slot. He's got to backing up Garrett Wilson. This is real speed. Watch this. Just flying his foot back.
Tigers crowding the line, then they pull back. Fields has time. Over the middle. Catch made. First down.
John Henderson in the backfield. And they'll throw it underneath. Nice throw. Nice catch. Smith-Njigba on the move. And Jackson Smith-Njigba, the sophomore from Rockwall, Texas, to get to the 34 for first down. Stroud guns it. And caught. Stroud throwing on first down. Up. Jackson Smith-Njigba, what a catch in traffic. And that'll take us to the end of the third quarter. Stroud. Underneath, caught. Touchdown, Buckeyes. Jackson Smith-Njigba. And here's Stroud looking underneath, caught. And touchdown, Jackson Smith-Njigba. What a play by Ryan Day. Stroud looking, pumps, delivers. And Smith-Njigba. What a game this young man's had.
Tell yesterday, wonderful guy. Stroud on the run again. Brought in by Smith-Njigba. Wide, plus an interception. Empty backfield.
Nice.
That is a nice slant by Smith-Njigba.
Michigan State transfer, so a guy that's played Ohio State before. Here popping it in front to Jackson Smith-Njigba. And there's some solid yardage for Ohio State.
Time missed, I believe, 10 days of practice.
There's a throw complete. Touchdown. Jackson Smith-Njigba. Best pass of the night for Kyle McCord.
Yards. It's not just a burst. It's a burst with some serious explosion.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of myself. That's caught. Shut down.
Buzz down, but I'm not. People don't forget, Brandon.
Yeah, right. Stroud between the hashes complete. Look out, Smith-Njigba. And Jackson Smith-Njigba finally swung around to the ground by Fadu Kasi.
In the wide receiver room at Ohio State. And Jackson Smith-Njigba is the third one. He operates in the slot. And you see the talent there. He was third.
Olave with that last catch, by the way, went over 100 yards. And here it's Smith-Njigba as he's pushed out of bounds.
Where he wanted to go. He's covered. He says, it doesn't matter. I'll put the football exactly where it needs to be.
Stroud with plenty of time. He connects. He finds Jackson Smith-Njigba. And he's got enough for the first down.
Yeah, it's pretty clear, I think, why I like this guy. He's good route runner, got not too flashy speed, but he's quick enough to make it hurt when he catches it. It's just one of those things of this isn't a player that the Seahawks strictly needed, but having those three guys is just going to be freaking nuts. Even if the NFL has Geno Smith locked down now, which kind of looked like they were figuring him out the last, quarter of the season plus the playoff game against the Niners. Even if they've got Geno figured out, that's still three receivers you've got to cover. It's not an easy job. Just because doesn't mean you can. It's one of those situations of knowing and doing are two very different things. So that's another contributor to this team. Probably the eventual number 2 guy should either DK decide that he doesn't want to stick around, or when Taylor Lockett eventually falls off. So that'll now bring us into the second round with defensive end Derek Hall. And this is another spot that I think is, let's go down here real quick. Yeah, it's not, I think, strictly a spot they absolutely needed help, but it's definitely one that picking a defensive end should pose some pretty immediate value for the team. So, back over here. It's one of the 1R Derricks. Okay. So, right off the bat, not bad production those last 2 seasons. 11.5 tackles for loss both years, 6.5 sacks or more, 52 tackles in total or more. So, this guy is getting active in pretty much every facet of the game, and that's really what I like to see from defensive ends and linebackers and everything. It's like you're going above and beyond what is strictly required of you, which is good to see.
They're down 6. Trouble from behind. The ball is out. And Auburn scoops it. And they're still going with it. This is going to be a touchdown.
TJ Finley tried to do too much. See how he lifts up the ball trying to get away from the rush? He wants to throw even though he's in the grass. And that's when it...
And boy, do they come up with a big play. First, the rush that engulfed the freshman quarterback. And then Christian Tutt says, I know where... 3 takeaways, a turnover on downs, a terrible punt, now a sack.
Good job getting inside. Real quick.
Again, how many times we say best pass rusher?
Pummel the quarterback.
This game as a leader with all the turmoil that Auburn's had.
3rd and 9, a little pressure coming. Steps up, and Brown was brought down at about the 44. The near side, they threw a touchdown on this last week. And now Young goes down again. Derrick. And he was there by number 29.
Looking up to get a reasonably mobile quarterback. That's good.
Auburn still playing man-to-man.
Pressure. Got him again.
SU gave him problems with the rush, and now Auburn giving him the tackles.
Number Jones, number 50, the right tackle is the true freshman. Bookend true freshman tackles for LSU. Daniels, ball came out as he was
here. And as you can see, he's not really doing much. And then as soon as Daniels decides to escape, he disconnects. That's just a veteran who's an outstanding player.
Burned on 33. First time, and Jefferson loses the football in the end zone, and it's recovered. Is this an Auburn touchdown?
And that's the matchup they wanted to see. Cunningham, the left tackle. Auburn felt good. Derek Mason felt good that his DN.
He's over 400. And now the pocket collapses and the ball pops out. There's a
from the opposite side here as you see the corner running into the screen. Roger Paterno.
Okay, so what I see here is a player that's got a good bit of power to speed. He can blow around these tackles pretty easy sometimes. He's also looks pretty good at swiping the ball, so you can pretty much bet there's going to be a reasonable amount of forced fumbles by this guy. Quarterbacks, watch your back. So this is another potential defensive playmaker, and in a weak conference like this is what you need. You need to have a draft like this that can put you over like 9 other teams in the conference pretty much immediately, and the Seahawks were already there. They were a wild card last year. They put up a reasonable defensive fight with the 49ers, at least till some point in the second half, but like I said, this is closing that gap between those last few teams that you can't necessarily easily get around so far. And seeing it come from the Seahawks is mind-fucking me, let me tell you. You know, usually by this point, I am like 90% of the way to saying the Seahawks had a shitty draft because they're not usually particularly well run. That's why Russell Wilson only won the one Super Bowl. So, next up we have running back Zach Charbonnet. This is one of two picks that I don't really see really the necessary wisdom of it, but then again, let's see, what's his name? Kenneth Walker, he did get injured last year, and DJ Dallas isn't exactly somebody that I would necessarily trust to be a backup if that happens again. So, in theory, Charbonnet and a pick we'll get to later on are there to effectively give DJ Dallas a challenge for the number 2 spot. And getting a back like this, who had 39 touchdowns in college, and probably would have had a lot more if not for a presumed injury, keeping him to 5 games in his second season at Michigan, probably would have had more. And pretty consistent yardage, 1,100 both years here, 1,300 there. So yeah, this is another potential playmaker for the Seahawks.
Outstanding in the university of all time. Keeping it on the ground with Charbonnet, breaks a couple of tackles and picks up the first down.
Good power dragging the pile.
Charbonnet keeps going. Charbonnet.
That's intentional. That one definitely not. But right here, DTR says, hey, I'm a great teammate. I'm going to fit up here in Christian Young. And then you just...
And Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who is out there. And Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah, good burst of speed
His
there.
offensive line had some trouble last week against Oregon. Not so.
Another 4th down. He may get it again here.
Charbonnet. Still going. He is
The lateral agility for kind of like Arian Foster. Remember Arian Foster with the Houston Texans? He's got a little bit of that, but he's skiing down.
Steve Mariucci, one of the best guys on earth, was the offensive coordinator, and Charbonnet.
9, and he's got the ball. Charbonnet, big hole, first down. Charbonnet, 3rd and goal. Charbonnet carries DTR with him.
Little follow the leader into the end zone. Hard ball run.
It's a run for Charbonnet. Thompson-Robinson ahead, and Charbonnet changing
the ball. They've done that, but they find themselves trailing.
And there goes Charbonnet. Really good with a quality, and I do mean...
The inside handoff, flashing through. Zach Charbonnet cuts it back. Stutter step move in the open field.
One man to beat in the hole is Mac Jr. The offensive line does a great job. Again, Charbonnet...
Yeah, I'm looking what I see here. This actually says to me the Seahawks might have a bit of a running back tandem going because Charbonnet looks good. Got a good little bit of mixture between the speed and power. He's pretty clearly got an extra gear or two once he breaks through, because there's been a couple of plays. He starts off slow and then just kind of booms away, so... I do like this pick. This is another solid one for me. So, that's another weapon for the Seahawks offense. This offense is going to be a problem. And you've got multiple tight end options to go to, a lot of receiving options to go to. Now you got 2 running backs. It's one of those things of good luck cutting the head off without 2 more growing. This is almost like a Hydra offense of just, how do you stop everything? So this brings us into the 4th round with guard Anthony Bradford, and checking the guard position, the Seahawks don't really have a lot here, so well, I'm inclined to say he's maybe initially a backup. I wouldn't be too surprised if Bradford ends up a starter in short order. So this one's a short video because I couldn't really find a proper, more lengthy video, but this suits me fine, so here we go.
Williams going to push that pile.
Daniels, again, the pocket holds for him.
Good brick wall on that guy.
as Williams
clears the lane.
powers it in for the LSU touchdown.
It's the entirety of that. And for that very limited serving size, I would say that he's got, he's pretty well anchored. He doesn't look like a guy that moves too much. So I don't really think anyone's going to be able to really bull rush this guy. You're going to have to get around him. That's hard because he plays guard, not tackle. So getting around him means you're probably going to have to beat another guy too. So not a bad selection, I would say. I think he'll have his value in due time, but for now, will probably be a backup for the immediate future. So the next 4th round selection is defensive tackle Cameron Young from Mississippi State. Wow. I mean, holy shit. 53 tackles from a defensive tackle. That's something I don't see very much. But kind of undercutting it, really kind of pathetic value in stopping the run in its tracks. So I'd hope with this amount of tackles that they're not getting very much yardage, but I'd like to see this come up. You've got to get them behind the line. You can't let them get yards. That's just how it goes. You cannot allow them to make gains.
Tommy DeVito. And DeVito gets swallowed up. Back close to the 30, Cameron Young. And
right side. Look at what they bring. Numbers to that side. Palczewski does his job on the outside, but it
is the best tight end in the country. A lot of times they line up side by side. Kenny McIntosh, 40. Kendall Milton stopped for no gain on the last play of the
same side.
McIntosh, play stopped. Pierce does in the community. McIntosh tried hard, but finally.
This is Tom McClain, and he finds going rough. You can understand that. Kai Sharon hands it off to Chris Rodriguez and loses a yard. Sharon last week got his first career start. Kentucky desperate to A, take care of the football, and B, find a way to pick up some first downs. Levis fakes the pitch. That is intercepted. Another state takeaway. 4th of the night.
Oh, you gotta love the big man.
To Will Levis, this is just a great play by Tyrus Wheat. Fake pitch on the outside. Wheat drops into coverage, but he's just reading Will Levis's eyes. Instead of go with Will Levis's eyes, gets a hand up, tips and overthrows. That's what defenses want to see.
This is one of those oddball ones for me because, again, we're kind of seeing the same sort of look that Mississippi State had. This seems to be something like a 3-4, nose tackle instead of defensive tackle. So what they've got here isn't that impressive, but I think it's enough to keep Young under a starting job because I would say between the two schemes, playing defensive tackle at a 4-3 is easier than nose tackle at a 3-4. So I think he'll take some time getting used to that. Might have to, bulk up just a little bit, but this is one of those stash him in your awareness for the future sort of picks. Maybe he crops up later in his career. Or just becomes bench depth. Either way, not bad. So next we have another defensive end, this time Mike Morris, who I think it says that he's the one they're keeping at defensive end. Hall was the one that this says they're moving to outside linebacker. So we'll see how this goes. Mike Morris. Come on. I hate when it does that. So this is kind of based on one season flyer by, basically. Get a sip of my drink real quick. Okay, so, like I said, this is basically based on one season where he didn't do a lot in overall tackling, but a lot of the tackles he made were either sacks or tackles for loss. So, that's like 18.5 out of 23. So, that's pretty damn good. But, like I said, if you're going to be playing at this position, you do need to do a little more than that. So, I would say that from the drop, this is probably another depth piece sort of guy.
Clint Ratkovich spells Ducker. 3rd and 12, and it is Ratkovich. So even on 3rd and 12, they try to run for it.
Urban Meyer do this when he brought Ryan Day on. So this is a change to try to get more modern and to continue to evolve in college football. And he's doing that with a more aggressive defensive coordinator and Mike McDaniel. Throw the ball, see a completion again real quick.
On 2nd and 7, Thorne in trouble. And Thorne is sacked. Flag on the play. 3rd and 5. And this one deflected at the line of scrimmage and intercepted again. Unbelievable. Mike Morris plucks it out of the air.
Ready for the Wolverines, creating 2 picks. Tipped up by Daxton Hill. Picked off. 1st down, Wolverines.
Took Nevada's previous team to 4 bowls in the last 5 years. They swing it out of the backfield. Complete, but nowhere to go for Vivens. Brought down immediately by Mike Morris. Clay Millen and the Ram offense has been impotent so far, devoid of any kind of...
Yeah, this reminds me of, I believe it was a player that I covered earlier this morning for the 49ers draft, that it's basically a lot of the plays available here seem to be just coming unblocked. Not a lot of effort to make these plays. But the fact he can make the plays is good, obviously. I'm not saying he doesn't have any talent there, but it's one of those deals of, if he's ever going to do anything in the NFL, I think it's going to be after like 3-4 years sitting on the bench watching better guys do it. So that's where I kind of judge that pick as being. So next up we have the tongue twister of the class, center Olusegun Oluwatimi. Another Michigan guy, so him and Mike Morris going to the same team in the NFL. This is another one that has some potential. The centers that are on this team don't have a ton of starting experience, so presumably they've been backups for a while, same as him. So that'd be 55, I believe. Good push off to get his second man. Keeps that guy pretty much out of the play. Good slide over. Doesn't really look like a smaller guy is going to have that much of a chance against this guy. This is why late-round offensive linemen are hard for me to write off, because I've seen so many guys that didn't look that good turn into starters, and I've seen the opposite, but it's one of those things. It's real hard for me to judge. This guy looks like he's got a good bit of awareness and speed, and that lets him really engage, it lets him drop someone off to the guard next to him, get up the level, take the linebacker, allows him to deal with defensive shifts. The guy across from him goes to the guard. He picks up the guy that was across from the other guard. So it's real good head on his shoulders type of football. So I'd say that he's got a chance. Maybe not this year, but I wouldn't be too surprised if we see this guy again. So next up we've got safety Jarek Reed. One of the depth charts I looked at suggests that Reed is supposed to be the backup to for the nickelback spot for the Seahawks. So we'll kind of be seeing how that goes. In terms of tackling, pretty good safety type numbers. I'd probably be inclined to leave him at safety myself, but sometimes that just doesn't go how things. Sometimes that just doesn't go how a team wants. So pretty good pass deflection numbers and consistent, if low, interception numbers. So it's not like nothing's going on in this category. A lot of other players I've seen, it's like 3 1 year, don't get another their whole career. It's like, I don't like seeing that, especially when they're getting their hands on the ball. It just says they can't catch. So we'll see how this one looks. Especially considering that we'll probably be seeing him on the field, considering he's supposedly a backup. Good job to get the hand in there, point the catch. Another good one, just harassing the receiver enough to make it incomplete. Ooh, good interception. Very underthrown ball, but still made the catch. Good bit of field vision on that previous one to make the touchdown. A lot of other guys probably wouldn't have been tackled like the 5. Overthrown. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that is all the interceptions he made, and I will say that about 3 of them were horribly overthrown balls. You're just not going to see that happen in the NFL, so it's one of those sorts of deals of this another keep an eye on him for the future. We'll kind of see what happens, I think. That's about the best I can say for him. The final selection is Kenny McIntosh, the other running back they drafted, presumably to challenge DJ Dallas for the backup duties. But based on what I see here, this is more of probably a pass-catching running back sort of selection, because 500 yards is pretty good. So this could be another potential weapon that they sometimes bring in just for that extra little wrinkle to make it that much harder to stop them. So come over here and take a look.
They are at the Bracers' 30-yard line. And now they're a lot closer to the goal line.
God forbid if Jake Fromm went down. McIntosh. Flashing the ability. Kenny McIntosh for a Georgia touchdown. 62 yards.
Behind Bennett on 1st and goal. McIntosh at the goal line. And he will add to the Georgia total.
On a high snap and a fumble recovery by Tennessee in the end zone. Kenny McIntosh. Good run off the left side. He's going to get about 13 out of it. Freshman in Tyler Barron, excuse me. Down the seam. Complete. McIntosh still on his feet. 1st and goal, Georgia around the 2.
It's a nothing really happened.
Blockers in front of McIntosh, who gets back to the 16-yard line. Whoa, and there's a shove, almost a punch.
YouTube Premium.
So yeah, like I said, this is... I don't think he's really gonna edge anyone out, but I think we could potentially see McIntosh a little bit in passing situations. He might pop up in the backfield on those obvious passing downs, and he could make a couple grabs throughout the year, but I don't expect anything flashy there, just a sort of a every now and again situational player. You might get a touchdown or two, and if you really pay attention to the team, you might know his name, so one of those sorts of players. Not too appreciated because they don't do too much, but can sometimes have a pretty interesting game here and there. So let's go do it for this class, and pretty much off the bat, I've just got to put the A+ on this. This is a fantastic draft. They got good value on 10 selections from the first round to the 7th. You know, there's no obvious, this guy's a practice squad, this guy's cut fodder. There's none of that here. All these guys have a chance to potentially have some value for the Seahawks, and I'd say at least the 3 are pretty much guaranteed to have value for the Seahawks very early on, with Zach Charbonnet and Anthony Bradford probably likely to have value pretty early on beyond that. So, you know, even some of the depth padding guys, like I think Mike Morris and Cameron Young, it's like you're not going to hurt too much, I think, if they end up getting on the field. And then the late round, the real late round ones, you've got some potential pretty high value here. You could have a starting center. You could have a future starter at safety, and you've got a pretty solid pass-catching running back. Obviously he ain't going to be a starter, but pass-catching running backs have their value in today's game, because it's pretty much the one part of the Patriots system that everybody copied that doesn't backfire. Having this extra pass-catching guy is effectively a safety valve for quarterbacks that aren't that good. Now, the Seahawks do appear to have a quarterback that's at least tolerable, since Geno Smith finally remembered how to play football, but, still valuable to have. So, like I said, A+ class. This is just good drafting. One of the first exceptionally good drafts I've seen come out of the Seahawks in a while. So, that's going to do it for today. So, leave a like, leave a comment if you have something to say, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to see when I upload next, share it with your friends, follow me on Twitter if you want to, and I'll see you probably later on in the, probably in the early morning hours for the Los Angeles Rams draft.